Good morning. Today on Spotlight, we'll focus our attention on two important reports centered in the city of Detroit. We'll begin with a Detroit Area Agency on Aging multi-year study entitled Dying Before Their Time. Why is the mortality rate higher for seniors in Detroit and 8 neighboring cities? We'll ask Ronald Taylor, President and CEO of DAAA. And a little later on our Sunday morning program, we'll look at how and why during COVID-19, Wayne State University has increased its freshman class enrollment to perhaps an all-time high in its 152-year history. Dawn Metley will be here to elaborate. It's Sunday, August the 30th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. You recently released a report called Dying Before Their Time, and it's the latest in, I guess, a series of studies that have started in 1999 and go up until today. What's the latest conclusion?
The latest conclusion is that we continue to see a number of our individuals that are experiencing excess mortality, and that really not much has changed from the first couple of reports that were released. But one of the things in which I would say is significant within this report is the fact that we have some of our younger population, as far as 50 to 59, that they're dying at 122% greater rate or greater clip than their colleagues throughout the rest of the state. And another real key factor that came about or that was highlighted was that we have a number of our population, approximately 39% or 40%, that are dealing with 3 or more chronic illnesses. And so that is quite alarming when you take a look at this data.
What are the causes for this? Because this is mainly for the city of Detroit, but also 8 surrounding cities to the city as well, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. It captures information as related to Highland Park, Hamtramck, Harper Woods, and then also the 5 Grosse Points, including the city of Detroit. And I think the factors or the influences that impact this data is multiple. And I say that, Chuck, in regards to the fact that when we're taking a look at this, there's some indications that the lack of access to quality, or I won't even say quality, but the lack of access to healthcare is playing a significant role as related to the number of individuals in which we're seeing passing away before their time. But then you take a look as far as some of the other social determinants of health, or those factors or influences that impacts the quality of life for individuals. And we see that there's work, or that there's efforts or energies that need to take place across the spectrum.
Would you say that this is more of a geographical problem than it is a problem of color, or a combination thereof, because the population of the city of Detroit is overwhelmingly African American?
I would say it's probably a combination of both. Nationally, some of our statistics and the numbers in which we've seen has also indicated that people of color probably experience some of the health disparities at a greater rate than their colleagues.
I know that Dr. Herb Smitherman over at Wayne State University Medical School was the lead researcher and has worked with you. I know on the latest report, I don't know if he was with you all of these years, but certainly a well-respected individual in our community. How deep did they dive into all of this?
There was a pretty, I would say, significant dive and intentionality to be as thorough as possible as far as the data that was received. I know that information was taken from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, along with data from HRSA, and also from other respected institutions. So Dr. Smitherman has been a big part of the study since its inception, since in 1999, and we are very thankful and appreciative that he can continue to be a part of this study along with his team of colleagues from the Wayne State School of Medicine.
Sure. All right, we need to take a quick little break. When we come back, let's try to drill down on what some of the recommendations are coming out of this study and where do we go from here. We'll be right back with Ron Taylor. Stay with us. Welcome back to Spotlight, talking to Ron Taylor, President and CEO of the Detroit Area Agency on Aging. Ron, certainly I'm sure that when people read this report, some alarm bells went off. But a lot of people may just say, okay, well, that's life in the big city. That's going to happen. I'm up here in the UP, or I'm in Kalamazoo or Grand Rapids. Why should I care about that? Why should the larger society and the state as a whole be concerned about these statistics?
Well, and I think it's alarming because, or it should, the others should be concerned about it because when you take a look as far as the statistics, I think there's some underlying issues which are also being reflected. And, you know, especially when you take a look as far as some of the things that are occurring within our community or our society at large today, as far as some of the social injustices, economic injustices, and the health injustices in which we're seeing. And I think everyone should be concerned and should be committed to trying to correct those issues and to ensuring that everyone has a good quality of life. But from the other aspect of it, I think there's a real concern that's related to there's economic cost at the back end of this as related to what's being expended through our healthcare system and the like.
So it hits everyone's pocketbook no matter where you live.
It hits everyone's pocketbook no matter where you live.
What kind of recommendations have come out of this report and this survey? Because I'm sure it wasn't just letting everyone know we have a problem, but how do we solve the problem?
That's correct. One of the things, or a couple of things in which we have proposed, is that we really need to improve the quality of health and human services of which are provided, and that the ability to have access and delivery of ambulatory and then also primary healthcare services, that needs to be improved upon. You know, Chuck, I sit back and think about when, you know, I used to listen to my grandmother who was raised in Mississippi, and her speak about their ability to get healthcare services and get to medical appointments and things of that nature, and how far they had to travel to do so. And when I ride around and take a look as far as the city of Detroit, I kind of think that really not much has changed since that, you know, a couple of generations ago as related to our ability to access healthcare. So I really think we need to do more to improve the resources that are available to our constituents. And we really need to begin to provide services down in the lifespan. We do not need to address or provide healthcare services to individuals once they hit the age of 50 or 60. But we should be doing preventative services once in the high schools and the grade schools and raising awareness. We also need to do more in regards to what I will say is as related to funding services for caregivers, because caregivers are essentially the backbone of our healthcare system, and we need to do more to provide resources to them. The third aspect, or the next recommendation, which I would say, is that we really need to do more as far as to provide resources to the community so that community-based organizations, which most of our constituents trust, are able to deliver or provide services in their respective communities. And the fourth aspect will be in regards to, I think, our allocations or the manner in which funds are allocated out. That needs to be revised, and so it's more of a needs-based versus a population-based allocation methodology.
There is a controversy out there. I want to give you a chance to weigh in on it if indeed you want to. The Governor Whitmer, has been criticized because of what's happening with nursing homes. Certainly the loyal opposition Republican Party has been beating up on her pretty badly, saying that your executive orders have hurt people in nursing homes. You're in touch with the seniors and many of them in nursing homes. Is their criticism valid?
I have not heard any feedback or any criticisms from seniors as related to the nursing homes. I have heard a number of comments and feedback as related to that nursing homes have some things in which they need to improve upon. But there's also been some appreciation for the role in which they've tried to step in and fill during this COVID-19 situation. So I do believe that there's room to improve, but there's also some appreciation for what the nursing homes have been doing.
Ron Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today on Spotlight. Hopefully people will access that report, which is on your website. And coming up, we'll talk to Dawn Medley at Wayne State University about their increased enrollment and how they're training young people for the future. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Spotlight. Joining me now is Dawn Medley. She is Associate Vice President of Enrollment Management at Wayne State University. Welcome to Spotlight.
Hey, glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Let's look at some of these enrollment numbers. These look like great numbers. Enrollment overall for the incoming fall class is up, and enrollment for African Americans is up considerably.
Yes.
How in the world did you do this in COVID-19, and why do you want to do this in the midst of COVID-19?
So I think that actually we were ahead of the curve. We didn't plan on COVID-19. I don't think any institution did. But when we launched Heart of Detroit this past fall, targeted at our Detroit community and our Detroit area students, I think that we have been the beneficiary of students really taking advantage of that program because of COVID-19. So what's been happening is with COVID, we have seen students who maybe don't want to go away to school, or maybe their institution is closed, and they aren't going to have students on campus. So we've been, very fortunate to have an opportunity for those students to stay closer to home. Our goal with Wayne State is to make sure that we are serving our local community. And we want to make sure that we are supporting our local students. And that was one of the reasons why we created this program. And I think with COVID, it all just kind of came together to provide our students with an alternative when they didn't feel they could go away to school. And so we have a lot of students from the local area who are choosing to stay local.
Ms. Medley, specifically, what is the increase that we have in the numbers?
Well, so at this point for our African American students, we have seen we're at about a 55% increase for our incoming freshman class. We're on track to bring in the largest group of African American students in our freshman class, maybe ever, but definitely in a long time. And then overall, our biggest freshman class ever was 3,038, and that was fall of 2018, so 2 years ago. And as of this morning, we're running about 110 students ahead of that biggest class. So we've seen some pretty significant gains.
Sure. There have been some community criticism, and certainly there's been plenty of politics at Wayne State University, particularly with the Board of Governors. A lot of people feel as though it's become too politicized. But is the increased enrollment in reaction to that? Is it because of that criticism that you guys went back and said, we got to really boost these numbers, or are they not one and the same?
So I think they've been walking parallel to each other. President Wilson has always been very clear. I've been at Wayne State for 4 years, and he has been very clear that we will serve the Detroit community, that we will increase diversity, that we will eliminate the Black-white educational disparities, and that we will support our students and try and mirror more of the community. So I think while he's been, driving that mission and driving that that perspective, at the same time, I think the criticism that we received a few years back was very warranted. Our graduation rates were not where they needed to be. We weren't necessarily supporting students when we were bringing them in the way that we are now. But our institution has changed. And the thing that happens with graduation rates and requirements, that's a 6-year trajectory or timeline. So if a student comes in fall of 2020, we'll be looking to see, did they graduate, in 2024, 2025, 2026. So it doesn't just spin overnight, but we have tripled our African American graduation rate but it was abysmal, and we knew that. And so there were changes that were put in place to help us improve those graduation rates, not just for our Black students, but also for all of our students. And that's some of the accolades that we've been getting are because of those efforts and the things we've done to support students. And that's why you're seeing our graduation rates climb. As far as it being politicized, it has been, but I also think that we need to continue to tell the story better. And we need to tell it more frequently and more often about the work that we are doing. Because if we're not, those stories kind of evolve in a vacuum. And I think that Wayne State fully deserved the criticism they got a few years back, but they are also improving. And I don't think that we should ever freeze people in time. And I don't think that Wayne State should be frozen in time. We're changing and evolving to meet, the demographic of our students and their needs.
All right. Ms. Metley, we need to take a little slight pause for the cause. We'll hurry right back and we'll try to drill down on what's next after you get all of these students into this freshman enrollment class. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Dawn Metley, with this increased enrollment, the next question that people want to know is what kind of support system is in place to make sure that 4 years from now, that they will all be walking across the stage with their degree and there won't be a lot of dropouts?
So that's one of the things that I think when we're talking about not freezing Wayne State in time, we have evolved as an institution. And so we have summer bridge programs to support students. This summer, we actually had Kickstart, which was a program where we gave 650 incoming students either a free English or free communication class so they could get prepared for online or distance learning. And we gave that to them at no cost, because we wanted them to be set up and launched for success. We have our VIP program, which is Vision and Impact, where we support students with tutoring and affinity group support. We have our Wiser program, which also brings in students and helps them connect with other students. We have a whole financial literacy education and component. And then the other thing that we have done, and I think probably one of the biggest supports for students, is we are offering more need-based aid for students to help them pay for their education. We are also able, in that 5th and 6th year, maybe where some students are running out of scholarship or running out of financial aid, we are able to come in and kind of fill that gap for them and help support them so they can go ahead and get on with their degree. And all of those innovative programs together, as well as the commitment from the president and from our academic advisors and our faculty, we believe that's what's going to lead for us to continue to increase that graduation rate.
How concerned are you and the university, and perhaps all universities, that the longer this pandemic goes on, that may severely affect incoming freshmen? Not so much for this year's class, but next year and perhaps the year after that, in terms of their preparedness, because so much of this learning is going to be remote learning and distance learning now, and a lot of the kids will not be in the classroom. Is that a potential worry?
It's a huge worry for us. And so what I would say is we have seen such technology gaps for students, whether they have access to Wi-Fi, whether or not they have a quiet place to go and do their work or to take tests. And then there also comes a point where students forget what they learned. And usually that happens over the summer. Maybe they'll learn something, you come back in the fall, you do a quick review. But we have a lot of students who are doing remote education and who are really struggling with that. And so I think as institutions, if we're going to be student ready, we need to be prepared to support students as they come to us and make sure that we have some, supplemental instruction on the side. We have additional tutoring. We have additional mental health supports. That is also a huge concern because students are feeling very isolated, both at the high school and the college level, and making sure that we can support them, with mental health counseling, with other ways that they can connect, as well as, research support. So we're going to have to continue to be very flexible and very adaptive as this pandemic goes on to make sure that we are supporting students where they need it.
Tell us briefly, in just a little bit of time that we have left, why this is so near and dear to your heart. I understand that you can relate to many of these students, and many of them coming from low-income backgrounds, because this is something you experience.
So yeah, it's always interesting when I'm asked this, because I think a lot of times when I'm talking to families and students in Detroit, you know, I'm a white woman, I have a Southern accent. They may not feel that I have a lot in common with them. But what's been really interesting is I was a first generation college student. I was a Pell student. I was low income. My dad only went to 8th grade. And so I was $20 from dropping out of college. And so a
Wow.
financial aid officer had me sign an IOU because I needed some items. And without those items, I wouldn't have been able to continue on. And so that really kind of started and moved my trajectory into student affairs, working with students and making sure that other students, you know, I want to knock down those barriers before they ever get there. And so that is why it's near and dear to my heart and why I'm passionate. Most people don't get really fired up over financial aid or creating a program. And I do, and I love it, because when you change someone's ability to attain an education, you not only affect their life, but you affect their family's life and their community and subsequent generations. And I really feel like education continues to be the social mobility ticket for, you know, our students.
Absolutely. Well, certainly we know that you kind of live, eat, and breathe academics. You live in the city of Detroit. You work at Wayne State University, and I understand you even got married on the Q line. Is that right?
I did. I wanted a true Detroit wedding. So yeah, so about 2.5 years ago, we got married on the Q line, and it was awesome. It was a pop-up wedding.
All right. And
You
you
can
and did I
Google it.
read right that
It's on Google.
and did I read right that you have 5 rescue dogs?
I do. We have dogs that nobody else wanted. So yeah.
All right, it sounds like you're a true urban dweller. Ms. Metley, thank you so much for joining us today on Spotlight, and good luck with all that you're trying to do with our young people at Wayne State University.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. And finally today, our condolences to the family of the late Michigan State Representative Alma Stallworth of the city of Detroit. She was the founder of the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. She died last week at age 87. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.